it's gone. Brody Kostecki is the king of the mountain. He got it pulled up. He made the He is now in 2024 the Repco Supercars Champion. And what a drive today.
G'day, James Baby here from supercars.com. We're going to carry on with our summer cooldown season previews brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers. Zach Dowdle, g'day mate.
G'day Paves, how are you mate?
Not too bad. Well, we're a couple of teams in, and one team I've really enjoyed watching develop in the last few years, let alone this year, PremiAir Nulon Racing. Zach, what a year for these guys. Wow.
Well, you rewind back to 2022, their first season, and Pete Xiberras makes his intentions very clear that he wants to go to the front and releases Garry Jacobson mid-season, brings in James Golding out of the Supercars wilderness. Fast forward 18 months, and boy, oh boy, Jimmy delivered big time for PremiAir in 2024. One of the real breakout stars of the season for mine, with a maiden pole position in Darwin, a maiden podium at the Sandown 500, with another massive addition to the team this year in David Russell as co-driver. I think that's been a really fun story to watch, and if they keep on going at this rate, who knows what could be in store for them for 2025.
Well, I saw pretty early on how hard PremiAir Nulon Racing was going to go for it this year when James Golding went head-to-head with Brock Feeney at the Chase, race 2, the Bathurst 500. They mean business, this team. And you get to Darwin, he gets that pole. Who would have thought that he would go head-to-head with Brock again? Brock gets down the inside. Unlike Darwin, they both stayed on the black stuff, but James's results that day, 4th, awesome, right? He was angry. He was angry about being hit off the road. So it just shows that the mentality of this team, they really want to get trophies. They had to wait until Sandown to get there. But you raise a good point about Dave Russell. He must have delivered so much to that team, not only in confidence, but in strategy, understanding these long races, how to get results. I mean, that's a massive pickup for those guys.
Well, I mean, we've seen the job he's done with Brody Kostecki at Xiberras the past few years. He's really established himself as one of the go-to guys in the Enduro season for the big teams. And massive get for PremiAir, and to get an instant result like that, and with such a performance as they did it as well, to go from 14th to 3rd. There was a lot going on that day at Sandown, but they sort of kept their nose clean, and there were incidents going on all around them, and out of nowhere we just see the 31 Nulon Camaro just pop up in a podium place, and it was a really cool performance. And then to back that up at Bathurst as well with a solid top 10 mightn't be what they quite wanted, especially given the performance they've displayed at Bathurst, well, since they really began as life as a Supercars team in 2022. James Golding and PremiAir have always been really strong at Bathurst and really fast. So there's so much to build on there. And I mean, there was a time this year where James Golding even looked like he might be on for a top 5 finish in the championship. It didn't quite eventuate, but still by far a PB for James Golding and PremiAir in terms of a driver's championship finish in 7th.
Before we get into too much detail, Zach, let's get a message from our partners. Our season reviews are proudly sponsored by City Rural Insurance Brokers. City Rural, a subsidiary of the Cowden Group of companies, has over 50 years' experience supporting their clients. They offer a range of specialist insurance from heavy industry to food trucks. They are your insurance pit crew. Head to cityrural.au. We've got a quick congrats as well to Romy Mayer, who's the only full-time female engineer on the grid. That's a great story in itself. Romy's expecting her second child, so congratulations, Romy, on behalf of us. But it's an interesting story on that part as well, because she'll have to leave at some stage next year to be with her family. And then, what's going to happen for James? They've brought in someone, Simon Hodge, who's going to be a really good addition for that team. He's been there before. He's got the 888 blood running through his veins as well. But, we spoke to Romy after Adelaide, and she was like, 7th in championship's great, right? We want to get wins. 5th was on the cards for us. So, can they win a race next year?
100% they can win a race next year, and I think his new teammate for next year could have a lot to do with pushing him even further forward as well in Richie Stanaway, which is another teammate reunion from 2019 in Gary Rogers Motorsport days. That's going to be really interesting to watch next year to see how Richie goes. We thought Grove Racing was going to be his last chance as a full-timer. If that wasn't, then this has to be, right? It's really coming down to perform or not for Richie, and I think he's going to know that too, and it's really going to be a good benchmark for James as well to really push himself forward. Slady did a really good job this year as well. Bit of bad luck, unfortunately, in races that really went against him, and ultimately he decided to pull the pin on his full-time Supercars career when it was when it became apparent that his services at PremiAir were no longer required.
Yeah, we do have to talk about Slady, who's a really good guy, popular guy at the paddock. Slade Dog, as some of us know him. Awesome career for Tim. I mean, you look at all the results he's had, those 2 wins at Winton with BJR all those years ago, but he was always so passionate about his racing and how hard he wanted to do it. I mean, you don't just fluke a co-drive at Shelby Power Racing alongside Scott McLaughlin. That was what he was able to secure between full-time drives, but you look at the results, it doesn't really paint the nicest picture for Tim, unfortunately. I mean, the head-to-heads 13-11 in Golding's favour, and the race head-to-head was 16-8 in Golding's favour. So, unfortunately for Tim, that last year didn't really go to plan, but there were really good moments for him. But unfortunately, those moments were quickly followed up by some tough stuff. I mean, a really good qualifying performance in Topor, mere seconds into the race, he was facing the wrong way out of the wall, and it almost seemed unfair for that to happen. I mean, you want those guys to have a good crack at it, and it just never really worked out results-wise in those 2 years at PremiAir Racing, but there are reports he'll end up with another old mate in a co-drive next year. That'll be announced soon. But, it's an opportunity for Tim to reinvent himself again. You can't forget about how good he was at BRT in that one car operation, those top 4s, those quick performances in qualifying. A word for Slady's career?
Stalwart of the paddock, Tim Slade. You don't hang around in supercars as long as you do without, well, 1, being liked by your peers, and 2, having the talent to go with it. His BJR performances really flew under the radar for mine. But apart from those wins at Winton, which were real standout moments, and I remember him doing the burnouts in the grass and saying that's how we do it in Albury.
Burnout.
More of a dust out maybe, but real solid. And I mean, we saw that Topor performance. Sure, the race didn't last that long for him, but he was going for first no matter what. And it just shows you how much of a hard-edged racer Slady is. And he's going to be a great pickup for wherever he might end up in an enduro seat next year.
Slady, you're getting supercars.com a thumbs up, mate. You're a good bloke and a good racer, and whatever happens in the future, good luck, mate. I appreciate your time with all of us this year in the media, especially in the fans as well. But 25, before we wrap this one up, 2025, we spoke about it before, Richie Stenaway. What potential that guy has. And when he's in the right mind frame, he is super fast. Disappointing to see how the year went for him for the most part at Grove Racing, but when it almost seemed coincidental when he was announced to join that team, his results just started to really improve. He was the lead forward for quite a while at Bathurst, and then that front row at the Gold Coast. Big shunt in Adelaide. We didn't get to see the best of him in those last races, but they are getting a driver with a massive ceiling.
And you look at the engineering group they've got to go, well, to support Richie. I mean, the big one for me, Ludo Lacroix. That's going to be so good for Richie, I think, personally. And we must not forget, too, he's in a 888 built Camaro. Last time he drove one, he won a Bathurst 1000. That's right. He knows how to drive a 888 Camaro. And if you can extract that same level of performance out of a PremiAir car, then, I mean, this team could be going places in a real hurry next year. And it's going to be really, really exciting.
Well, we'll hear more about Grove Racing and some other teams in our Summer Cooldown series brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers. We'll hear from us pretty soon.